Okay. How you doing?
Good.
All right.
Never better.
All right.
You gonna have a sandwich?
Yeah.
I didn't think so. Keep walk down here until we just... I really don't know where to begin.
I was thinking just with whatever you remember about Vera and Ardash and just the early family like that.
He came before he married my mother. He had a mother. He had a wife and 2 children in Armenia. And he came here with a group of men to look for work. And he found work in the steel mills in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I went back to get them. And he could get just so far to this small town. And maybe you know all of this already.
No, I didn't remember that at all. Mm-mm. I know shamefully little.
Well, my mother was living with her sister because her parents had died, and she was orphaned by her mother, I think, when she was age 9, and I don't know about her father, but she lived with her sister, and she was in, I can't remember if it was Tiflis or not. Tiflis is now Tbilisi.
Oh, right.
And that's where my mother was born. I don't know what the town was. She went to stay with her sister.
Okay.
But at that time, my father got that far and couldn't get any further. But he heard through mutual friends or whatever that his family had died by the Turks, of course.
Yeah.
One story was that they had starved to death. Another story later on from my aunt. She was kind of an aunt. She was like a third cousin to my father. Said, no, that's not what happened. She said, the way it happened is that the Turks built this huge pit and had everybody stand in it and beheaded them.
Oh, wow.
So, in any case, at that time, the revolution was starting in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
They were trying to get all the young girls out of the country. So there's a lot of matching up between the girls and other, and men.
Arranged marriages.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
To get them out of the country. My mother was 15. My father was 35. Anyway, they came with a group of other Armenians on the same boat and made staunch friends, and those friends stayed with them. We call them aunts and uncles, and that was really our heritage. I think I'm kind of unclear about this because, of course, I wasn't born.
Right.
But I think they did go to Pennsylvania. And I think again, and I should know this, that my brother and my older sister Ann were born there.
Okay.
And then they moved to Detroit.
So when they came over, they didn't speak English, did they?
My mother couldn't speak Armenian. My father couldn't speak Russian. So they couldn't communicate with each other.
Oh, that's right. I think I remember hearing
that.
Right. That may be a barrier in the relationship.
And the women were, primarily they were much younger than the men they were matched up with.
Okay. What a scene.
Yeah.
So then they must have both learned English then as a way to communicate?
In a manner of speaking. My mother was the more aggressive and she learned English. She learned Armenian.
Runs in the family, I guess.
Maybe. Yeah, she was always the dominant one in the family, regardless of the age difference.
That's great. I wonder where we see that again.
Oh, come on. I think, I guess women's dominance is pretty common. I can't deny that.
Okay.
And you would think that in the old days, it would have been the man that called all the shots.
Right.
And in most cases, that really was true.
Mm-hmm.
But not in my family.
That's great.
I don't know where to go from there.
I'm curious about Detroit. I mean, when you were born and your brother and sisters and growing up there.
Yeah, we didn't get to Detroit proper very often. We never had a car.
Okay.
And we lived in Del Rey,
okay,
which is the west side. And it was, I always consider it a very rich heritage. I always felt I was privileged to be raised in that atmosphere because there was every kind of nationality you could name.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody had any money. We were all pretty much in the same straits.
Yeah.
But it was I think it was, looking back on it, I see it as something that most people couldn't relate to. You know, it was a fascinating childhood. We lived in this house that was later condemned.
Wow.
It was a dilapidated old house, and we lived upstairs. And our landlord and his wife lived downstairs.
Okay.
And there was a time when our electricity was turned off because we couldn't pay it, and we had one kerosene lamp, and if somebody had to go to the bathroom, you all trotted down the hall with this kerosene lamp. And I don't really have a sense of how long that lasted, but it wasn't all that long.
And all the kids lived in that house?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And, I mean, our next door neighbors were still dear to us for years. I mean, I just heard from Jovi, who was the youngest daughter, just last week, and Italian family.
Okay.
And he was, talk about a patriarch. He was a patriarch, and in that family, the woman was not dominant. Her name, she was really frightened of him, and she should have been. He had this huge granite egg-shaped head, you know, and it was no hair. He was an intimidating man, and she was really afraid of him. She was talking with my brother outside, and she'd see him coming. She'd say, "Oh, I have to go inside. Mr. Joe is coming," and she'd run in the house. And we had good friends. We had a good childhood because it was, I don't know, we were all so close.
Yeah.
You know, it was just, we had a common bond, and it was, to me, it was a fun childhood. For other members of my family, that's not true. Turn that off.
Yeah.
Two major things happened to Norma. The first was, we were playing outside. We had a tent, and they wanted to light a candle. So they had me go in the house and get a candle and matches, which I did, and I took it down, and Norma was holding it like this, and the wind blew and caught her dress on fire.
Oh, no.
So she was, some man was coming across the field and saw her and rolled her in the carpet. But she had like multiple surgeries. She was in very bad shape. And she's now very much scarred on her chest. Mm-hmm. We had a roomer that lived with us. She died. He was an Armenian from Egypt. And it wasn't until I was an adult, not until maybe 15 years ago or 20 years ago, that I knew that he had repeatedly molested her. We had this basement that was dirt floor. The coal bin was there, and we had rats. And he'd take her down there. So from Norma's point of view, childhood probably wasn't the best time of her life, obviously.
Yeah, I guess so.
And of course, since I was aware of that factor, to me, you know, I enjoyed everything there was about the childhood, but for her, she has some very painful memories.
I bet. But you guys were close as siblings?
You know, I think that truly we became close when we became adults. You know, we played together, and we had lots of friends. We'd always play outside, but you know, I don't know that we meshed.
Yeah.
Individually as sisters and brothers. Yeah. We all slept in one room. We had two beds that were kind of like twin beds, and Ann and John slept in one bed, and Norma and I slept in another. From that viewpoint, we were close.
Yeah. Right, yeah, I guess so.
One head on each side with feet sticking in your face.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lived that way for quite a while, actually.
Wow. Wow, that's just amazing to try to picture.
Yeah, it's really hard for, you know, it's the kind of thing that, I don't know how to put it. You don't go around talking about your childhood because I don't think very many people can relate to that kind of a life.
Yeah.
They just can't.
Yeah.
You know, Christmases, I remember Christmases, my father would always wait until late Christmas Eve and go out and try to find us a tree. Mm-hmm. And I'd always picture him dragging that tree through the field to come to the house. Mm-hmm. The only presents we had were Goodfellows, and it was a cardboard box with a standard cheap doll, socks and underwear, and I think some nuts or something like that. And that was our Christmas.
Wow.
And without that, we wouldn't have had presents.
Were there a lot of other Armenian kids in the neighborhood? Did they travel with them from Pennsylvania?
Strangely enough, we didn't have a lot of Armenian friends. There were some Armenians on that street, but they located in places like Dearborn and other areas. And we didn't do a lot of socializing till later on because we never had a car.
Okay.
And once in a while, my mother and I would go, or all of us would go on the streetcar to go somewhere that we had to go. Well, we didn't get to go to group things. There were 4 children, 2 adults, and we didn't have a car, so it was hard for somebody to say, "We'll pick you up," you know. once in a while we went to the Armenian Park. They called it White House Park.
Right.
And had shish kebabs and things like that outside. It was really nice. But that didn't happen very much because we didn't have the wheel.
But didn't they move from Pennsylvania to Detroit to work in the factory?
Well, yeah, but we're talking now Depression.
Yeah.
You know. And,
that was in the 30s then?
That was, I was born in 28, and that was, Depression had already started.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it lasted, as you know, very long.
Yeah.
Yeah, my father, when he worked, much of the time was WPA, you know, which was a wonderful project, and he was able to do that.
That's great.
When he did work, other than that, he had the most menial, dirty jobs. He worked in a foundry for a while.
What's that?
Ovens? I'm not quite sure, but I know it's a dirty, hot place to work.
Okay. All right.
But much of the time, you know, we just depended on welfare, things like that. I mean, work was sporadic. It wasn't that there was a job and he worked at it.
Right.
You know.
Wherever he could get work.
Right.
And sometimes it was in the Ford plant, or
Ford Motor Company came a little later. Maybe I'm jumping, but you know, World War II changed everything for everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, suddenly there were jobs galore, and women flocked to their factories, and men like my father got jobs in factories. But before that, there was very little.
Okay.
Yeah, World War II had an incredible impact on the economy. You want another one?
You want to share one?
No, I can't. Another one.
I could probably have another one. Why not?
Michigan, they came out here for a visit, and he asked me, well, where did you come from in Michigan? I said, well, we lived in Del Rey primarily. He said, oh, it's amazing how you've, risen above your background. And I always took it as an insult.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't ashamed of my background. You know, I didn't think it was a terrible background. There were good people. I thought it was rich.
Right. Why should we have to rise above what was good?
Right.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. Who was that said that?
Oh, a friend who grew up in Michigan.
Huh.
But she came from wealthy parents, you know, they were professors and I don't know, anyway.
Yeah.
So, and her parents came out here for a visit and they asked me where I was from. That's how that came about.
Right.
That house was my
Sure. Yeah.
the house was eventually demolished.
The one you guys grew up in?
Yeah. Starting to see something. Eventually we were evicted because we couldn't pay the rent.
Oh no.
And this was later. Maybe I was 13 or something like that. I don't remember. The neighbors took us in until we could find something, and I always remembered our furniture, what little we had sitting out there in the rain. It was just, but our Italian family next door took us in, and until we found something, and this good friend aunt who was in our life helped us to find a place and helped us to get started.
Yeah, I can remember. The only thing that I can relate to that is the kids that I taught in D.C. And I drive by some of their homes and see all their stuff out on the front lawn. And they had to find somewhere else. And they were always difficult to deal with at school that day. You know, going through a lot.
I don't remember that it had any great effect on me. I was never very outgoing, just the extreme.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
I don't know that it, we For one thing, in our life, we didn't have a lot of people to compare ourselves with. That, oh my goodness, look at what they've got.
Right.
You know, gee, I wish I had that or something. Because everybody was pretty much in the same situation.
Right.
And I think that when you were poor and you're having to live up to or be able to do the things that other kids are doing and you can't, then I think it probably has a greater effect. But for us, we were all in the same boat.
Yeah.
I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah, that really does. Yeah. Yeah. So you guys found a new house though, eventually?
We rented. Mm-hmm. We rented in kind of like a fourplex. And it was like a different world. But see, by that time, we were beginning to get on our feet. You know, my mother worked in the factory.
Oh, okay.
And my father. And so it was, our whole situation changed. Then we were able to, pay back people who had helped us. And, there are a lot of, you know how you have little vignettes, little images of things that happened when you were a child that seem just so, when later on you think of it, it seems overwhelming. But I guess that was all part of that whole scene. And Mr. Joe next door, I'll never forget, he caught this rat. And he tied the tail on a branch.
While it was alive or dead?
While it was alive.
Alive.
In front of all those children. He doused it with kerosene and he set it on fire.
Oh, God.
I will never get that image out of my head.
Oh, my God. What did you guys think? Were you just...
Oh, it was horrifying.
What,
Yeah.
Why did you just for fun, huh? To amuse the neighborhood kids?
So.
Huh.
That's kind of a guy he was.
Wow.
He had his family. Turned out just fine. We communicated with them. We still do.
All right.
In spite of him.
It's amazing.
We saw a lot of things, I think, at our age that was should have traumatized. Maybe did, and I don't know it. Maybe there's something wrong with me in my head that's what's responsible for it.
No.
But I'm not aware of it. We lived on, there was a big field that we used for playing in baseball and everything else. And everybody was always out in that field. And there was an alleyway this way, and then next to the alley was a grocery store. And this man lived upstairs in the grocery store. He lived alone. And I'll never forget standing on the sidewalk, all of us, and watching the paramedics bring him out of his house. He had slit his throat.
Wow.
And this was all, it was very, very visual thing, believe me.
You could see it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, things that should have traumatized us, but I don't know. I look back on it now and it's stupid to say that I'm grateful for all of those things, but those are the things, all of that makes up what you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And people are resilient, thankfully.
Yeah. See, what else can I tell you?
Well, I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot. Any other stories? I'm also interested to hear about. I know there was a lot going on in the factories as well. Because I've read a lot about Detroit and strikes going on in the area and stuff like that for better wages during the 30s. And I don't know if our family was part of that or if you
It had to be
remember
in
that
the late
stuff.
30s.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had
The
to
later
be.
30s.
Yeah. Because during the Depression, nobody was striking,
Yeah.
believe me.
Yeah.
They were grateful to
Right.
have a job,
Yeah.
no matter what it was.
Yeah. Right.
So that had to be much later on.
Sure. That must be great.
I'm not good about years.
Yeah.
What happened when.
It's okay.
Norma's a good historian. I think that she would, be able to fill you in if you were interested in dates and things. And perspective, too. You all have a different perspective on things that happen in your life. I'm sure you and Paula don't see everything the same way.
Right, definitely. No, I'll talk. I'll talk with her too. That'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything major here that I.
So school? I don't think we've talked about school at all.
Well, there again, that's perspective. My perspective of school, and you know the old song about, boy, I walked a mile to school.
Right.
Well, I'm sure it was.
All right.
Yeah, and we had some cold winters,
Oh yeah.
and we had to walk in that snow, and all those times they make a joke about parents that say, yeah, when I was a kid, I walked, in the snow. Well, it's
Uphill
true.
both ways.
It's
Yeah.
true. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
And we didn't have the proper equipment for snow and things. We didn't have the jackets and the boots and things.
Yeah.
We had shoes that had cardboard stuck in them to keep our feet dry. By the time we came home, they were all wet and freezing. So, yeah, we had our times. But, it's weird. I never felt underprivileged. It sounds like a weird thing to say. I guess you accept that as a fact of life.
Becomes normal.
That's the way your life was.
Yeah.
And you didn't question it or yearn for anything different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that does have a lot to do with comparisons. Remember, we had no TV.
Okay.
We had no telephone. We had none of the things that bring the outside world into you.
Right. Huh.
Kids these days see things the way they are in every other country. They see the conditions other people are living in. Don't have that exposure. We had the people who were immediately involved in our lives, and they were all in the same boat.
Right. Interesting. Huh.
Now, our entertainment was the radio, old standbys of the little bridge or at River McGee Mall and things like that.
All right.
We would just all sit around the radio, and that was it. We went to the movies. We'd collect bottles, deposit bottles,
Oh yeah.
to take
For
to
like
the store.
5 cents or
Mhm.
yeah.
And movies didn't cost very much then either. So we'd walk over to the Del Rey show.
Huh.
That was good.
All right. They had all the latest films there.
Mostly cowboys.
Cowboy films.
Mm. Not mostly cowboys and Indians. But my mother was very much into movies. She named Norma after Norma Shear,
Oh, there.
and she named your grandfather, his middle name was Valentine.
Oh, my mom had told me that. Actually, I saw those movies.
Did you?
What's his name?
Rudolph Valentino.
Rudolph Valentino, yeah. And in college, my professor showed me those movies, and I was telling my mom, and she said, that my father's middle name, and he wouldn't tell anybody. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
He hated that middle name?
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Well, who wants to be named Valentine, for goodness sake?
That's great.
I was named for the lady downstairs.
Is that right? What'd she do that your mom wanted?
She was an invalid. All the years I knew her, I never saw her out of bed. But my mother took care of her a great deal of the time. That was kind of a break in the rent,
Oh, okay.
because they were the landlords.
Yeah. Huh.
She was a very sweet woman, and I was very shy. And she kind of took me in, and talked with me, and made me feel like I was important. So anyway. Yeah.
All right. You guys all stayed in, what'd you say, Dearborn, just outside of Detroit?
No, that's where
Oh,
one of
no,
our friends
right.
located, yeah.
What was the
There's a
name of the
big
town?
Armenian community in New Dearborn.
What was the name of the town you guys were in?
Delray.
Delray, that's right. And you guys stayed there through high school?
I was there until I had to been there until I was 13.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I'll check that out. It's normal, but I think
Okay.
that's true.
And then where'd you guys go?
Well, we kept stepping up. You know, we rented
Okay.
another place
Right.
that was bigger
Okay.
and nicer. And then my mother and father bought this little house on Appleheim. I think that was the first house. Yeah. Where do I go from there? You don't want to know about adulthood and all the rest of
Well,
that.
there are some things that I'm curious about, like how you got over here. And
I got over here.
yeah.
Well, because Uncle Bernie never wanted to stay in Michigan. He wanted out of there.
So you met Uncle Bernie in Michigan.
Yeah, I met him through a mutual friend, an Armenian friend.
Okay.
Norm and I joined the AYA, which is the Armenian Youth of America,
Oh,
at
okay.
the urging of this one woman that was very close to us.
Huh.
And
What was that about?
that was after we were still in high school or just out of high school. Yeah. That was the youth group of the Armenian General Benevolent Union, which was known to be kind of a left-wing Armenian group. And although the AYA was not involved with politics or anything, the adult organization was.
Okay.
And we did it just for social reasons and
Right.
worked out fine.
All right. Cool.
That's where Norma met Armin, and that's where I met Bernie through a friend that was in AYA.
Okay. I didn't know. I never heard that story. And then you guys wanted to move out west, huh?
Yeah, he never wanted to stay there. He went to school in Chicago, and then when it was time for internship, he and a friend applied.
Did you go to
Various
Chicago,
places.
or you guys were
Yeah,
apart?
no, we lived in Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah,
And when did you get married?
1952.
Okay. So that was before he went to school in Chicago, or?
No, he was in school.
Oh,
married
okay.
him.
Okay.
No, he was already.
Huh.
He was not about to graduate, about a year before he graduated, a year or two.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm not very good
Yeah.
with years.
Okay. All right. So then, did he have a job out here, or he just?
No,
wanted
he got an internship out here, and so he and his friend wanted to go to Medford, Oregon, and that was the closest place to get an internship. He applied at many places, but that was the only place, and it was the closest one to Medford, and so we took it. And then his friend changed his mind anyway. So and by the time we got out of internship, by the time he worked for people until he could get semi-established, we couldn't afford to leave town. You know, we were still going to go to Oregon, but we didn't. You know, we owed everybody money, and it's an expensive proposition to leave town.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we stayed.
Okay. Huh.
Which, in retrospect, I think was a really good thing.
So then, how did you make it out eventually to Seattle?
You mean physically? How did you?
Yeah. And around when?
We rented a car. We didn't rent a car. You know how somebody advertised that they want their car?
Oh, yeah. Or you can drive it across for them.
I'm a little embarrassed to say this because it's not a nice thing to do, but anyway, we made an agreement to drive this car out. And what we did was to hook our car onto the end of it. The only furniture we had was baby furniture, so there wasn't all that much. But now we dragged it
All right.
across the country.
That's great.
And we found
Gotta
an
do it
apartment. The
together.
first apartment we found was unfurnished. So we had no furniture.
Oh, no.
And so we had a TV set.
Where was that?
That was off of Queen Anne somewhere.
Oh, okay. Huh.
The woman, we called her and asked for instructions on how to find it, and she kept saying it's right off the counterbalance. Have you ever heard that?
Oh, no.
I haven't either. I'm glad to hear you say that. We had no clue where that was. Anyway, it was a nice little apartment, but like I say, it wasn't furnished. We went to Levitt's Brothers, which is that still in business?
I think I've seen ads for that.
Oh.
Do they sell furniture and?
We got 3 rooms of furniture for one price.
Yeah.
And on credit.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really junk.
Alright. Huh.
Beat the furniture we had in Chicago. In Chicago, we had orange crates for end tables and things like that.
Now, did you guys already have kids when you came out here, or?
Only Nikki.
Nikki, okay. And then,
And the other 2 were born here.
okay. Huh. Wow, that must have been a new challenge.
Yeah.
Right there. And then you guys had to find work.
Yeah,
once you
well,
got
he,
here.
like I say, he was at the hospital. He was intern, and I found work.
Okay.
We lived in a basement of this house on John, right across from Group Health Hospital.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. It's not far from where I am now.
And I got a job at Social Security. Had to take Nikki to the babysitter 7 blocks with a stroller. In the snow again.
Yeah.
And 7 blocks back to the bus.
Yeah.
And then had to transfer twice. Worked in the federal office building downtown.
Okay. And then at this time.
Now you're just getting my life history.
Yeah, I
It's
also
not
wanna-
really family history.
I also want to hear about I know John went into the military, and
Yeah,
he
so
was.
did Bernie. So did everybody.
And Bernie did too.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
right.
So did Hart. So did Armin.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So you guys were.
I mean, all able-bodied men who were in the military, believe me.
Yeah.
That's why there were so many jobs
Yeah.
for women. And of course, they were making more planes, all various things that the military needed. So yeah,
Right.
made a big difference. But that was a bad time during the war because I remember the Western Union boy bicycling down our street, and everybody would stand out there and watch to see where he's going. Because it was always a telegram saying something had happened, So it was really a time of dread.
Yeah. So you were just hoping you didn't get something about your brother or anyone you knew. And John served on a Navy ship?
He was in the Signal Corps. If he did, I don't know that.
Okay. I thought I heard that from
He
him.
was in the Philippines,
Okay.
and he was in Japan.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somehow or other, naval ship doesn't ring a bell.
Because I just remember a story my mom has told me about them being on one of the first boats to reach Japan after they dropped the nuclear bombs.
Oh.
And
She would know.
I think she said to me something about how upset the crew was that they had dropped those bombs, and they just didn't think that was a fair way to fight at all. And my mom was surprised how the soldiers had reacted.
Well, those soldiers aren't like men who had volunteered to sign up. It was a draft.
Yeah.
They had to go in.
Right.
So there are people with all different kinds of views.
Right.
It isn't like, oh, I'm going to defend my country. I'm
Yeah.
so patriotic. It's different now.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's true.
And when you have no choice, you have to go in. You're not always going to agree with what the government is doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Huh. And you weren't near your sisters during this time? You guys were all in different cities?
Yeah, we did all move in various places, except Norma, of course. And when we were young, raising our children, we really didn't have. We all communicated, but it wasn't the same as sharing their life. So we didn't see each other a lot until our kids were a little bit older, and we had some extra money, and we could, do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So.
And where did they go to when you moved to Seattle? Where were they?
Anne went to Rhode Island.
Okay.
And John was, where was he? He was when he was in Western Reserve, but I can't remember the sequencing of all the places he went. He was always going from place to place. That's a good one for Norma.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Okay. And
Anne was a very naive 19-year-old when she married Bart. It was a tragedy of her life.
Yeah.
One of the tragedies of her life. And she wanted me to go into all that.
If you want, whatever you want to, you know, you don't have to. You can change the subject.
There again, you know, when you're a teenager, when she was 19, I was what, 15. You know, you're kind of self-absorbed and you're not tuned into the family dynamics so much. You know, and so, but in retrospect, and especially talking with Anne and getting different viewpoints, I realized what was going on at that time. You know, I never did like him. From the moment that your grandfather brought him into the house, I never liked him.
He was a friend of John's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, very close friend of John's. He was a very screwed up person. You know, he'd been a Catholic, an altar boy. But of course, he changed many times after that. But he was a user. He was very domineering. You know. So Anne, you know, struggled with that marriage. She had 5 kids, and you know, it was a trap for her. But I had to give her so much credit because she was so determined to change her life eventually. It took a long time, but it was 5 kids. It's going to take a long time.
Right.
I mean, she went to school at nights. She determined to get a degree. She did. She graduated with honors. Then she moved out, got her own apartment with Ada.
Good.
Yeah. So she was able to change her life and turn it around so that maybe the last 30 years of her life have probably been the best years of her life.
All right.
Yeah.
That's really.
She always considered herself the ugly duckling of the family. You know, that my mother was always criticizing her, which she did. She wasn't a pretty girl, you know, and she wasn't outgoing like some of the Armenian girls my mother compared us to. My mother did a lot of comparing. I never felt like it affected me very much. I always felt like I was kind of analyzing our family, you know, standing outside looking in. And I'm glad that she didn't have, you know, a lot of influence on me in my life.
Your mother?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the
She
comparisons didn't bother you and stuff like that?
Not really. I never did have a strong self-image, you know, but I think I was just a shy person, period. But for Anne, it was, and Norma, of course, was the darling little girl of the house, and I can see why. Your grandfather was very protective of her, and she had, you know, I didn't know when I was a girl, and you don't understand all the things that are going on, but you know, I can see why they would have felt like she needed more, you know, than anybody else.
Okay. Protecting her from the boys and.
Yeah, well, she's had so many terrible things happen to her as a child.
Right.
I think it was maybe trying to make up for that somehow.
Yeah. Huh.
And of course, she entered into this marriage. Don't ever let her hear this.
Okay. All right, I won't. You know, the other thing that I've been curious about is when my mom moved out here, because she hasn't really told me much about that.
Oh,
I mean, she's told me some, you know, but I'm also curious about that, and I know that she always says that you did a lot for her and really helped her. when she came out here. So I don't know.
I probably have more discomfort with this topic than
than any of it. Huh?
You know, your mom and Jeff are going through a bad time because, you know, John was such a volatile guy, and the two of them didn't handle their divorce very well. They were extremely unhappy with one another, but it was the kids were caught right down in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in Detroit, if I remember right, he was in Detroit visiting with your mom and Jeff. And he said, well, maybe I could talk with her or something. So anyway, I took her with me on an errand to Grandma's house. And we sat and we talked. And she was very miserable. And I
How
told
old
her,
was she?
oh dear, how old was your mom? Was she 14?
Probably.
Yeah. And I remember saying to her that if she ever needed to get away or, you know, have some help, that she could always let us know.
Yeah.
So anyway, John called me, I don't know how much longer after that, and asked if I wouldn't take her for a while, you know, so she could just get away from that.
Mm-hmm.
And so she did. And then she went back to Binghamton and graduated.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought. So she came for just a little while?
No, she was here. She'd know that.
Yeah.
She came here. She was here a while.
While her parents were getting divorced and
Yeah.
figuring that
Yeah.
whole messy process out.
And then she went back and graduated. Then she came out again. And then we got her a room at the dorm and signed her up for university.
Okay.
Sue was very upset about that. And she felt that I was interfering, or that she accused me of trying to take her children away from her. And she was very angry with me. She came to town, and I said, well, you know, I think you ought to come over and we should talk.
Yeah.
So she came over, but she wasn't going to talk.
Uh-oh.
She said a lot of things to me that were
Wow.
hurtful. Anyway.
Oh, that's terrible.
I remember those times very well. And really, I was only trying to be helpful. So,
Yeah, I bet.
I've got a little threshold for tears these days.
It's okay. It's okay.
Don't take them seriously.
No, it's just really good to hear some of this.
Yeah, it was a strange position to be in because, you know, I felt like I was not an innocent bystander, but that I was doing something that might help, you know, that situation, you know.
Yeah.
And it backfired on me, and she really accused me, and she wasn't very nice. And we never did really sit down and talk, you know. And I always felt that sooner or later she should have said, you know, I was in a bad way, and I'm sorry.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
She never did. And that's always been a little area of discomfort between Amy and Sue and me. You know, that she felt like she had one over, she'd be too uncomfortable, had the other.
Yeah.
I'm past that now, I think. And I think that, you know, some people can't, I don't know if they can't admit it, but they have a hard time admitting it. You know, maybe she's not admitting to herself that she was instrumental in saying or doing hurtful things, or certainly not helping the situation at all, because we were all trying to think of the best interests of the kids.
Yeah. Well, it's clear Mom needed help at that point, and it seems like it was good that she got some and got out of the situation she wasn't happy in. So.
Yeah.
I think she looks at it as she's very grateful for the help that she got.
I know she does. It makes me so uncomfortable when she says that. I don't know why. I mean, some things you do, you know, I hear this about my relationship with Anne, you know. Like, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's not anything heroic. It's just something you do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you were asked and you were in that situation, would you say, "Oh, sure"?
Yeah.
Of course you would.
Yeah. For sure. So you helped set Mom up at the University of Washington. She was
Well, that was one of the things that set, Sue off, was
Yeah.
the fact that in order for her to have tuition that was not out of state, we had to sign as her guardians,
Oh, okay.
and that took Sue was the ultimate takeover, And it was just a matter of, she said, well, John's got the money, if he weren't so cheap and that sort of thing, but that's silly.
Yeah.
It seemed to me a reasonable request. It didn't mean that I was taking their child, just a piece of paper,
Right.
that brings that tuition down considerably.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Huh. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Right.
No, that's good. And Mom was only around 16, wasn't she, when she started out school?
She was pretty young, 16, maybe 17, 16, maybe.
That's pretty amazing. I wouldn't have been ready for college at that age.
No. I wouldn't have been either. I never did go to college, but when I graduated from high school, I was 17 in May and I graduated in June.
Okay.
So I don't know how that happened.
Huh.
But in
Somehow
fact,
you
Norm
got
and I
ahead.
graduated in the same class.
They skipped you up a grade.
I guess, and I don't know why. I was no genius, believe me. I don't know why that happened. I went to different schools for a while, jerked around a little bit. I had to go to an open air school.
What's that?
I don't think they don't have them anymore. I don't know. Anyway, we had an old school that had steps. And when I'd climb the steps, I'd be all out of breath and huffing and puffing. And so they thought I needed to have better nutrition and stuff. Anyway, it was a place people with health problems were sent.
Oh.
And so you got your lunch and you had to have a nap. And
Huh.
academically, it wasn't the best.
Yeah. Huh.
And so from there, I went to junior high for maybe just a year. And then I went to high school. So somewhere along the line, I don't know why I should have skipped a grade, but I did.
Okay.
Never could figure it out. Believe me, it wasn't my grades.
Okay. So that's good. I don't know if there's any other stories. I mean, I learned a lot already, and just things that I'd always wanted to know more about, especially like Detroit and then especially about my mom coming here, stuff that somehow it never comes up. But
that's not a comfortable topic.
Yeah.
It's just very.
Yeah. No,
And I would just soon it does. Well,
now there it is. It's on record, but I think it's just good to have the story.
Probably it was a story that should have been not taped.
Well, it won't have to be played for everybody, and you can decide who you're comfortable with listening to, and I can bury it in the backyard for years if you'd rather, however you're comfortable with.
Because I know your mom for a long time has been very uncomfortable on a holiday to have Sue there and me there.
Yeah.
And I can deal with it.
Well, we're about to try it out, right?
Uncomfortable, but I can deal with it.
Okay.
With grown-ups.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a while back. We'll try it this Easter, huh?
Is she coming?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's the last word. I think she's fine with it too. I saw her a couple days ago. Yeah. Or actually yesterday was John Perry's birthday, so we went over there and helped celebrate, and I think they talked about it. I think it was fine. She was just I didn't really hear much, but she was just hoping that everything on your side would be fine and she was going to be okay, so.
I don't know how what Sue's feelings are about me. You know, I have no clue.
Yeah.
And it's not anything that anybody has discussed openly.
Yeah.
You know.
I bet.
Yeah.
I don't really know either, but it seems like she's fine from the birthday party. I don't know if there's any other thing about John or anything else from. I just remember loving him so much when I was a little kid.
I was so proud to have him for a brother. I mean, I adored him. Well, we all did. I mean, he was difficult, but he was worth it.
Yeah.
You know, he really, really was.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. And he was always the scholar of the neighborhood. And yet he wasn't a sissy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll never forget, the poor guy, you know, for a while there he sold ice cream. And in those days, we didn't have a bike. So he had to carry this strap, this container on his back. You know, the ice cream was in there. And we always made him feel so bad because when he'd end up at our house, and we couldn't buy any, he couldn't give it to us, you know. And I always remembered him. I thought, what a tough situation for him to be in. You know, that had to be hard. It's really hard. But there was nobody bigger-hearted, but at the same time, so difficult.
He was a character. I remember he would just fill up any room that he was in.
That's how I always describe him.
Yeah.
They say bigger in life, and he really was.
Yeah. And he always used to play games with us. That's the other thing.
Yeah. He liked games.
He liked beating Bernie at cribbage.
Beating Bernie
Didn't
at
he?
cribbage.
Didn't
He used to yell and scream because he could never win.
Oh, it was the other way around.
It was
You always beat John. Okay, that's right.
$100 off it.
Is that right?
He could never win.
That's great. Okay.
Call me every dirty name in the book. Every time he lose, he called me a dirty name. And I said, no, you're not quitting, you're playing.
They yell
Okay.
at each other.
Okay, I remember hearing a game or two. I couldn't remember which way it went though.
I got the scores all on the board.
Is that
funny that I told him.
Not only that,
Oh,
he used to have a cow because he couldn't beat Lita at backgammon.
Really?
Yeah, that made him.
She was really good at backgammon. He couldn't beat her.
I thought he was a champion.
He was very good. Well, he says that in Armenia. Now it's Lauren. Lauren and I play backgammon a lot. She says, you're the only one I could beat.
That's good.
Thanks. So you're not going to finish that sandwich, huh?
I'm full. Do you want part of the
I'm
sandwich?
going to have to Pacific go.
Okay. Let me see. Oh, these are the official scoreboards, huh? That's how much you want off him?
Yeah, 280, 180, 340.
You kept the
Are you
score.
serious?
Huh?
Wow, you made money off it.
That's his writing.
Hey, that's a second job.
Yeah, hey.
How nice you have that. I don't
That's
know
a
why
nice
it's
board.
so-
Well, we still play cribbage and backgammon quite a bit.
Yeah.
I guess it got ingrained in the family.
Well, he was mad because he said in Binghamton, the club there, he was a champion. He was really.
That's great. We've actually also started playing euchre. Have you guys ever played?
Yeah, I didn't go to a youth club. I had
I never
girls
played
there, and they went every Tuesday to play euchre at a tournament.
Okay.
About 20 tables of euchre players, and they make it round.
Yeah. See, we started up a tournament in Seattle ourselves, and in
It's a good
DC.
game.
Yeah, that's a good.
It's almost like bridge, but a lot quicker.
Right. Quicker, easier.
Faster,
So,
easier.
you know,
Easier? It's easier?
euchre. Yeah.
Because I won't touch bridge.
Yeah. Oh, you should learn euchre then. It's the easiest game to know,
Really?
and it's so quick. It doesn't take any time.
Oh. Heard those dosage, like I'm on it for 2 weeks and off for 2 weeks and 2 weeks and off.
Okay.
And for, I think that's 1 month. But still, it's a hefty amount.
And so
It costs a lot of money to stay alive.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And that's the pharmaceutical companies just
Mhm.
adding on the price.
Mhm.
It's outrageous. And they can't, and they have patents. Is that so? They
yeah.
can't make a generic.
There's
Or,
no such thing, no generic on this stuff.
that's
I'm
yeah,
sure they could.
yeah. They could, but they'd rather not. They'd rather make a buck off the people. Oh man, we definitely need some changes today. That's just not right.
In every which way. We have so many issues that need to change. I can't. Direction of this country is right now.
I know. Yeah. Well, Mom's going to speak at the College Not Combat rally on Thursday.
Maybe.
So I'm really happy about it. It's in Seattle at Seattle Central Community College. And she's going to be, I think, they're trying to set up a college fund for students in Seattle. So they have another option, so they don't have to go to Iraq
Yeah, right.
if they want to pay for college. So she's trying.
How does that affect kids in rural communities?
Yeah.
Does it help them?
Well, we want to get this fund nationally, hopefully, but we.
It seems to me if the funds were directed to rural communities where those kids don't have a chance, with what are options?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we need to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's so much pressure from recruiters on them.
We need with how much money how wealthy this country is, it seems like it'd be possible to give kids another way.
You take care of everybody in this country.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. Start with taxing the pharmaceuticals and using it for our schools. How about?
It really is very disgusting.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, World War II changed things in this country in every which way. I mean, guys that couldn't go to school.
Did you add though?
Which John
Is that right? I didn't
yeah, everybody I know went on the GI Bill.
Yeah.
We don't have such a thing now.
Yeah, that's cool.
We had veterans loans. If you wanted to buy a house, you'd get a VA loan. They made it up to you in some way,
Yeah.
Nowadays, we can hardly afford to take care of the poor guys that come back maimed.
Yeah, I know. I read stories about them who, sorry, you're out of health care benefits.
Yeah.
Come on. That's too much to even believe. Like, I don't know.
But, your mom was dead. John would have been so proud of me, that she's so involved in that kind of thing. And, I've never been a activist. I'm a passive activist.
All right.
But, I'm so grateful for people who will get out there and do something, Yeah, go ahead and do it if I can.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Mom's doing it.
Yeah.
Mom's doing it. I'm trying to get her to speak with Cindy Sheehan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
To achieve what?
Well, I think they both are talking about trying to stop the war. And
Yeah, well, she has to talk about that. Day one. And I'm such a negative person.
There's a lot to be negative about, unfortunately.
I think I'll get into it. It just seems like so much to deal with, and I think, what's the point? I'm not going to see any changes in my lifetime now, I know that, and I would like to think that my grandkids will certainly see huge improvement in this country.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're trying to fight for, something. Yeah.
I do small things, like the church, they'll have fundraisers for things, at the shelters and different places. Shelters are kind of Band-Aids over things that shouldn't be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's about both, trying to, on the one hand, do what we can right now. To
You're
help
right.
the people,
If everybody felt like me, nothing would ever change.
But then also trying to get at some of the more fundamental inequality in this country. At the same time.
Well, the bridge between the poor and the rich is getting more and more narrow all the time. How did you get such beautiful hair?
I don't know.
Gee,
I don't know.
Kill for that.
It's an anomaly considering. I don't know how I got this hair. It's very unusual for a mixed kid.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot for talking today.
Well, I feel like when you leave, I'm going to say, oh, yeah, I didn't tell them about that.
Yeah, I know you are.
And I should maybe put my thoughts in order before you came. But somehow I didn't. I guess I'm feeling very self-conscious. And I'm not very good as a narrator. And I don't like the spotlight.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk again. I'll be up here again.
And I'm terribly sorry I put that about Sue Hunter.
No, I can delete it.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
I don't know if your mom should hear it.
I don't think she would be hurt by it at all. But I think.
Sometimes I think it would be good for her to understand my feelings. I don't want her to think I'm being petty. And yet, at the same time, is it all water? It's gone.
Right. I think my mom was pretty upset with Sue for how she handled it, from what I can make of it.
I didn't know she was even aware of how she handled it.
Well, I don't know if she'd heard that story that you told about her coming here or
No,
not.
because
She hadn't heard
I
that.
made sure the kids were out of the house.
Okay.
Because I figured we need to sit down and talk, and
Yeah.
they should be present.
Right.
So they weren't home.
Yeah. But I think in general she had a sense that her mom didn't handle it well. And I don't think she blamed you for any of that. So.
And I know, what an emotional time that was for Sue.
Yeah.
She was more than upset, she was going crazy over what was going on, but at the same time, nobody seemed to think about the kids.
Yeah.
That if you're angry or you have all this, fuming against your husband and his family and everything, let the kids be out of it. It was a dirty divorce. That was not good. Both their parts.
On either
John,
side.
well, yeah. I'm not saying he was such a,
Right. And it seemed like it affected Mom harder because she might have been older than Jeffrey. I mean, you think that's true?
Probably. Although I did worry about him being, back there. He was still caught up, and I think even in court the kids were involved.
Did he? Oh, is that right?
Not possibly, don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But it seems to me, I remember that that's true.
I think I heard that as well, about it. And that they had to testify or something like that.
And I thought that was inexcusable.
Yeah. That's wrong.
It's hard enough for the kids to have their parents split, but to split like that is just too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And neither one of them was thinking about the kids. John wasn't. I mean, everybody was intent on being indignant and right.
Yeah, that's really hard. It's really hard. So did Jeffrey stay? Who did Jeffrey live with after that?
I think he was with Sue.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. Huh.
Amy would know all of that better.
Okay. I at some point need to talk to her more too, obviously.
No, I didn't get a lot of information about what was going on there.
Yeah.
I mean, I was trying to maintain a neutral
Yeah.
stance and just, okay, this is what you want me to do, okay.
Yeah.
And that, but, and I don't think I would have gotten a straight answer from anybody anyway. It's too much emotion.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Invested in that. Being right on one side or the other. Yeah. Alright. Well, I appreciate it. Can't be easy to get into all that
I
stuff.
feel like maybe that's what you wanted to get at to the beginning.
Well, no, I mean, I wanted to hear about Armenia and all this kind of stuff. I remember doing a school project in 7th grade, and I think that might have been the last time that I really, heard about Vera and everybody. And I think I got some Armenian words from you.
Oh, really?
When we did a little cultural project in 7th grade, and
I remember that.
how to say it. You must have known how to say a few things.
Yeah, I still do.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah,
So all that
I
was
try
interesting
to recall them. I sometimes look around and try to remember the words and phrases in Armenian. I do very well. A lot of words I've forgotten.
Did you guys used to speak it at home?
Well, yeah, my father did.
Huh.
Because he didn't have a very good command of the English language. He
Oh,
never did
okay.
learn to write or read.
Okay.
He was pretty illiterate.
Huh.
He came from rural people, and my mother came from city folk.
Okay.
Chiefly was more sophisticated town, more cultured and things like that. And I probably should have said all that right there. And we didn't even think about it.
That's alright.
But, so there was a big difference, not only the age, but where they were coming from, the culture and the differences, and language.
Yeah. Huh.
So my father was pretty much a beaten man by the time he got married. He had had so much adversity in his life, He lost his family. I mean, everything was just such a struggle for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time he married this 15-year-old daughter here, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe she had to take command.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she had no choice.
Right.
But she stayed in command. She died.
That's great. Huh. Alright. I don't know.
Yeah, I think maybe I have left off things that were probably more pertinent. But
There's,
it's fun.
okay. Alright, that's fine, and we can do it again, and there's other stories you remember, just let me know.
Like I say, sometimes when I reminisce, and I think they're growing inward, I wonder, they don't seem to be all that interested, and why aren't they asking questions? And I wish I had, especially with my father.
Yeah.
I never asked my father questions, and he was the one who had the most mysterious. I knew everything about my mother, how many sisters, her lifestyle. I never learned that about my father. He had one sister. And see, I should.
That's okay. Sorry.
Yeah, the questions I thought of afterwards, I thought, oh my God, And this poor man, he needed the friendship and the attention of children. And we didn't give it to him. We so see children and doing the things children do. And later on, as an adult, you think about all the things you should have asked, and you should have been more interested in, or that you could have helped with it,
Sounds like you went through a lot, though. And it was just had a pretty difficult struggle of a life, starting from.
Oh, from beginning to end.
From beginning
He
to
had
end,
the most miserable life anybody could have.
Wow.
He really did. And that was one of my biggest regrets, that after we became established and had, money to do things that it was too late that I couldn't do things for him that would have been exciting or fun.
Yeah.
No, that is one of my biggest regrets. But
So yeah, keeps going.
really, the wheels turning, trying to
Yeah.
between all of this.
Well, let's talk again. And next time you can tell me all the stories you forgot.
Well, I think
And I'll get
maybe
another free lunch out of the
I
deal.
got the history all out of sequence, but that's all right. No, that's all right. I'll take care of it. Yeah.
Don't want to mess up your kitchen.
I don't have garbage under the thing, so I'll